Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar where we shall talk about the NIHR Research Professorships Award. My name is Holly Leonard, and I am a Senior Programme Manager at the NIHR Academy. This session is being recorded, and the slides will be made available online afterwards. So your mics are muted and videos are off. There is a Q&A button. We would encourage you to use this to ask questions about the content of this webinar and on the RP Award in general. If you see a question that is relevant to you, please like or upvote it, as we shall use it to prioritise the questions that we answer. And finally, we have a chat function. If you experience any connection or sound issues, please use the chat area and a member of our team will do their best to assist you. So, as I said, my name is Holly and I look after the Research Professorships Award here at the Academy. And today I'm delighted to be joined by one of our deputy chairs of the funding committee for the awards. That's Professor Kerry Hood, and I'll let her introduce herself and where she's from.
Hello everyone, so I'm Kerry Hood. I'm a Professor of Trials by background and a statistician, and I'm from Cardiff University.
We're also joined by Professor Martin Knapp, who is a committee member, and I'll let Martin say a few words about where he's from and his background.
Hi, I'm Martin Knapp. I'm based at the London School of Economics. I'm Professor of Health and Social Care Policy, so I'm very interested in social care. I'm also a background in economics and been a member of the committee for a few years now. Thank you.
Great. I believe also on the webinar, they will be able to chip in with the questions. You might not be able to see them just now, but we have Professor Janelle York, who's also Deputy Chair, and she's Professor of Nursing and Head of the School of Nursing at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and also Professor Jane Code, who is also a committee member, and Jane is Professor in Children and Family Nursing at the University of Nottingham. In the background, we have my colleagues Emma, Lucy and Claire, who will be here to also help answer any of your questions. So just to go over what we shall cover today, we'll go over the background and give some context on the Professorship Award and provide details about the upcoming cohort and the application process. I'll then hand over to Kerry, who will talk about what makes a competitive application and her reflections as Funding Committee Deputy Chair. We'll have time then to go into some questions and answers. So if you think of any questions while we're talking, please pop them in the Q&A and we shall answer these at the end. So Martin specifically will have some time to address the social care questions, and then Janelle and Jane will be specifically answering any questions from healthcare professionals and those from any nursing backgrounds. So firstly, to give just an overview of the RP scheme, it is a 5-year award that enables outstanding academics to lead health and care research at professorial level. Applications opened last week and they will close on the 10th of December. The award is open to those from any professional background, and applications are particularly welcomed in this cohort from a broad range of both clinical and non-clinical professional backgrounds, including public health and social care and methodologists. The award consists of a package of support, including research posts such as postdocs and PhD students, research running costs, a travel fund, access to our leadership program, which is a prestigious and competitive program running over 12 months with residential courses and online modules. You would have the opportunity to request a sabbatical and, of course, your basic salary costs, which would allow you to focus all of your time on your professorship. The RP Award provides a step change for researchers to become outstanding research leaders in their field. And by the end of the award, we would expect that you have demonstrated leadership at a national and international level and have enhanced collaborations, both existing and developing new research collaborations. We would expect that you would have been protected by your host institution, thus relieving you of any administrative tasks and allowing you to focus on your research. As I said, it's an annual award. We give up to 5 professorships per year, and we open last week and we close at 1 o'clock on the 10th of December. So in terms of eligibility criteria, You must be close to or have recently been appointed to professorship level. We do recognize that career structures and pathways differ in different professions, so please get in touch if you're interested but unsure if you are eligible. As mentioned, we're looking for those with an outstanding track record in public health or care research, and you can be a clinical or non-clinical researcher. You should be based in England, and you must be nominated by your host institution, which can be a higher education institute, NHS organisation or trust, or other provider of health, public health or care services. You should have a HEI as either a host or a partner organisation, and have an outstanding record of clinical and applied health and care research and demonstrated effective translation of research for improved health care. So there are limits on the number of applications per institution, and we have the following criteria in place. So where 2 nominees are put forward for consideration, at least one must be female. Where only 1 nominee is put forward, this can be either male or female. And a 3rd nominee can be put forward if they are from an ethnic minority group as part of our commitment to equality and diversity and inclusion. So in terms of the application process, we do have the new system this year, online system for applying for the award. And with that, there are some significant changes to our application form, which is only relevant if you've applied previously or previously looked at the application form. But we thought it would be important to go through those key changes that are different this year. So within the lead applicant section, your ORCID profile will be used by reviewers to look at your employment, previous experience and qualifications. So please make sure your ORCID profile is up to date and that the visibility is set to everyone. We may use your ORCID profile to confirm your eligibility for funding. So using the employment and education and qualification sections within your ORCID ID is important to record and display this information. Your ORCID profile may also be used by reviewers as the source of your publication record. So if you have any research outputs that you want the assessors to be aware of, you should add them to your ORCID profile. We have moved to a narrative CV, which you upload within the lead applicant section. A template for this is available on the awards management system, as long as guidance on how to fill in or how to complete a narrative CV. Within the support and mentorship section, we suggest your mentors also update their ORCID profile, as the assessors may check their profiles to look at their suitability for inclusion on your application. Then within the application details section, you're asked to upload a detailed research plan. A template for this is available on our system, which you should use. It should also be noted that this year, inclusive research is the condition of funding, and Kerry will talk about this a little more. And within the detailed research plan, you should include how you have considered inclusion throughout the whole research life cycle. You will also be asked about how you will work with people and communities, which was previously known as PPI or PPIE within the application form. I would like to highlight that this year, the public committee members will be reviewing applications after shortlisting and providing feedback prior to interview, which you will be asked to address at your interview should you progress to that stage. So moving on to some key dates, as we have already mentioned, when the competition opened and closes. Applications will be reviewed by the committee for shortlisting between December and March, and then between March and June, those who've been shortlisted progress to external peer review. Interviews will be held in June 2026, and awards will start on the 1st of the month between October and March. If you want your award to start after March 2027, then you will be applying to next year's round. So some tips from us within the program team, just before I hand over to Kerry. Register with the system, start your application early and update your ORCID profile. Review the guidance notes and check the eligibility criteria. If you have any doubts, contact us. We're here to help. Make sure you give your required signatories advance notice of the deadline. All signatures must be received before 1 o'clock on the 10th of December. Give due consideration to how you will work with people and communities, and read our guidance on research inclusion. We suggest you have peers review your application prior to submission, and last but not least, a comprehensive spelling and grammar check. So as mentioned, we will review and answer your questions at the end, but for now I shall pass over to Kerry.
Lovely, thank you. So if you can move on to the next slide, and I'll run through some of what we're expecting and some of things to reflect on as you think about putting together your application, and how you tell us the best story of who you are and what you're aiming to achieve. So this is the highest level personal award that the NIHR provides. It's a flagship for people who get it, and that's what we're looking to do. So we're looking for people who are on a steep career trajectory over the last 5 to 10 years. Relatively flexible about kind of exactly how you portray that, but we are looking to see that you're going somewhere and you know where you're going. You need to show you're on course to be an outstanding research leader. Now, that could be a research leader within your discipline, but it also could be that there's emerging synergies between disciplines, and what you're saying is you'll be the leader of that area of synergy. So think about how you're going to tell us that leader you will be, and how that will contribute to the NIHR in the long-term future. The idea is you're not yet established as a leader in your field, but that field is as you define, so in the way I just talked about beforehand. And generally, you'd normally have spent no more than 5 years at your current level of seniority. So there's some examples given there of some of the classic ones. I realise that I think there's already a question in the chat about the fact that many universities are using associate prof rather than reader or senior lecturer these days, but that's the sort of level that we're talking about for this. So next slide, please. So we are actually interested in everyone in the health and care research community. So I think one of the challenges that we continually review and pay a lot of attention to is trying to make sure that there is diversity in who is being awarded these. So I don't want anyone on this to think it's not for you just on the basis of looking at others and going, they're more likely to get it, or they're better than me. And we do understand that there are different opportunities in different disciplines, so we're not looking necessarily for you all, everybody, whoever you are, to have brought in exactly the same amount of past research funding. We're looking for you to show that it's strong for your area. So I think that's a key thing for us to think about. Now, Holly's already mentioned the nominations. I would say, we'll come back to that later, but I would say I've been on the committee whilst this change has been brought in, and I think it has considerably increased the diversity in relation to gender and ethnic minority. So I think it has been relatively successful. Can we move on, please? Move to the next slide. So the things that you need to remember are the key NIHR operating principles. So we're interested in excellence, yes, but we're also interested in inclusion, impact, collaboration, and effectiveness. So you're going to need to cover all of these things in terms of your research professorship. And you need to remember that it covers, it's about you as a research professor in terms of impact and excellence, as well as the research project and programme that you will deliver. So I think remembering that it's all of these things, and not just for your project, but for you as an individual in the future, and how you will have impact and excellence is a good thing to remember. We do include methodologists of all kinds. So you don't have to be a health or social care professional, but we are also very keen to make sure we cover the broadest remit of health and social care as we can. Collaboration is completely accepted and indeed expected. If you're going to be a leader in your field or your area of the future, you need to show that you can lead others, and I think that's part of what we'd expect to see being developed through it. And generally, we want a future within which the individuals who are awarded this will be generating the evidence that drives improved care, and that's basically what we want to be able to come away from with some degree of confidence that that's what we've done. Next slide, please. So the overall remit, and for those of you who've maybe had other NIHR Academy awards or are used to the general remit, is slightly broader for research professorships than we might see others. The remit generally is translational research, and we do within research professorships actually see a little bit more of the experimental medicine than we might see in some of the others, but we still have to be told that there's a clear and plausible path to patient or public benefit. So please do remember that that has to be quite clearly shown and thought through. But what we don't do is cover basic research or anything involving animals or their tissues. So that is basically excluded. We will support educational research and methodological research, again, if you can show that there's clear impact for the future of both of those things. So it's about how you tell the story of the impact that you will have. And as I've said already, we want to give opportunities for the best candidates, regardless of background. And I think that will probably be some of the discussion we have today. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we're looking at strong upward trajectories. We do recognise, however, that careers come in phases. So please do use, there is always an opportunity to tell the story of your career, and if there's been curveballs thrown at it or things where you've gone and done different things, tell us that story and how it has helped you to develop. It doesn't automatically mean that because it's not been a perfectly linear, continual, increasing research trajectory that you'll be ruled out, but you need to explain that to us. And that is one of the reasons why I'm really pleased we're moving to narrative CVs, because I think we'll get even a better picture of that. We do want to see breadth, and I hope you've got the sense just from the things we've already done that we're trying continually to look at areas that we're concerned about in terms of diversity. There are some figures on this table which are the ones where I guess we're potentially a little bit more frustrated as a panel that we haven't managed to shift the dial on yet, and we're very, very keen to continue to look at. So our success rates in non-Russell group and non-Golden Triangle are not as good as in the Golden Triangle and in the Russell group, and that's one of the things that we really want to try and address and change. So if you're from the ones that if you're from an organisation that hasn't traditionally had them, use this sort of content that we discussed today, use our discussions today, but also give feedback to the office, and we'll see if there are ways in which we can support you to put in a credible bid and show your best, because we know there are good people in other organisations. Next slide, please. So your research programme must excite us, and by us, remember the breadth of just, you've got me and Martin and Janelle and Jane here, but we're a very, very broad committee. So you're exciting not just people who know your area, but people who don't know your area. And that's really where that potential impact on the NHS or social care comes from. You can sell us that. You need to show that you're stretching yourself above what you've already achieved, and that it's extending you in a way in which you haven't been extended or couldn't be to do other things. Should be able to lead to further external funding. And also we are very interested of our leaders in the future showing a strong positive research culture and showing that they know and understand how to develop others. So it's not just about you, but it's about the people you work with, the people you support, and how you see driving that forward to have a positive, create a positive research culture for the future. And don't forget that we do want to see a very strong development programme in terms of you alongside the research. This is not just a programme grant. It is about you and where you will be at the end of those 5 years as well. So next slide, please. So Holly's already mentioned research inclusion is important, and this needs to be threaded through your whole research life cycle. And the notes are on the slide here of the different domains you need to think about it in. The other thing that I would say is it is important that you think and make relevant to the area that you work in. So if you know that there are particular groups who are disadvantaged within your area, then make it specific to them. We don't really want a generic cut and paste that could have been written in anyone's research project. We want you to have make this specific to the area area you're working in. So so do include it throughout, but also make it specific. It's not a copy and paste job for doing this. It needs to be properly thought through. Next slide, please. And similarly, whilst it's often combined with the research inclusion piece, how we push forward working with people and communities, thinking about aspects of co-production. Again, it needs to be thought through, made specific to this. Make sure that you're engaging with the communities who will be the people who are the end point of your research, not just the ones who are easier for you to access. And I think that's probably a key point for us for you to think about on this. So as I said, we changed the process for this a little bit this year because we felt like we were seeing quite a few really good things that just needed a bit of work on their PPI plans. So there will be feedback given before interview. But if you get to interview, you'll be expected to address that point. So there's lots and lots of guidance on this, so please do go and use it and think about this area. All of these extra bits really matter. They're not things to spend forever working on your research program that you're going to put in and then think you'll do an hour of just throwing something together. It needs proper thought through this. So next slide, please. So commitment from institutions, this is a key challenge for us. We do expect a reasonable host institution commitment, and then we will follow up during an award to make sure that that is being delivered. We do, however, also recognise that different institutions are in different positions financially. So it's not to say that we benchmark specifically saying this is giving exactly this number of pounds and this is this. We'll be looking at what is reasonable for your institution. And I recognise that negotiating this is really challenging at the moment in a lot of institutions. However, this is a highly prestigious award, and we do expect significant contribution from institutions. That should be recycling your current salary and making sure that recycling helps you, not just covers work you won't be doing. And we also expect to see that there is long-term support, certainly for you, and ideally for some of the other staff who might be employed on this. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, you do not have to stay with a set institution. This is a personal award. So if there are any challenges, or even if you're thinking that you would prefer to go from another university than the one you're currently linked to, then that is entirely possible for these awards. Next slide, please. So this is the nomination process. We talked about this a little bit already. We do limit the number that institutions can put forward. That helps us with demand management, but it also helps us to make sure they're not all going to one institution. So I think that's important. If you don't know what your university process is, I'd expect they already have one. So make sure you go and find out what their process is as soon as possible, because I'm sure that there will be a rigorous internal process. This is competitive. So you can see the number of applications we had this year, but not ridiculously so. You know, there is a real shot, you know, that, and certainly if you've got through your university process, that you can get to this. So I would like to encourage people to be bold and ambitious in going for this. So next slide, please. Okay, so I think we've covered all of the things there. I'm just going to throw over to my co-deputy chair to see if I've missed anything that she wanted me to emphasise before we move into Q&A. Janelle, was there anything else you wanted me to say or that I'd left out?
No, I think you've done a brilliant job, of course, Kerry. And yeah, just really keen to start the conversation with the potential candidates. I think that would be great. There's lots of questions that have come in, actually.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yeah, so, no, thank you, Kerry. Thank you.
So back to you, Holly, to manage the questions, is it?
Yeah, I will manage the questions. So as mentioned before, please do pop them in the Q&A box. And if you see a question that's relevant to you, please like or upvote it, because we will answer the ones, we will prioritize the ones that have the most amount of likes as you go through. So Kerry, I'm going to pop the first one over to you. The guidance states that applicants should not already be established leaders in their field. Please, can you clarify how you are assessing this? Are there any clear criteria you are using to define an established leader?
So I don't think there's a set criteria, but I suppose the point that I would say we discuss as a panel quite actively is, does this person need this award? If you're already leading the international network of something, and you've already done X, Y, Z, and if you're already a leader, then you probably don't need the award. It looks a bit more like another program grant, to be honest. So what we want you to do is tell us why this award will elevate you up to the next level. So it's telling us that story that's important rather than a set criteria.
Yeah,
Great.
I could follow up on that, Kerry. Yeah, absolutely. What Kerry's just described, it's how can this award take you above and beyond what you're already doing? And if you, as Kerry said, if you're already there at the top, what is the so what additional benefit that this award will bring that you can't get if you're already extremely successful with program grants, HTA grants, etc. What is the additional so what that this will bring?
Great.
I think that's quite often a conversation, isn't it, with some applicants that come through, is that, how established is this person already?
Yeah. So next one is, can RPs still remain a co-I on pre-existing funding grants? What is the expectation for existing funding and research we're involved in? And are we expected to give this up? I'll maybe just say a couple words and then pass over to anyone else who wants to come in. So this is a personal award, not a program grant. So we would expect you to have funding coming in from other streams to fund your research, because this award really just predominantly funds your salary and the salaries of your support posts, and then there is a little bit left over for research funding. But if anyone else from the panel would like to come in on that, please feel free.
I think I would say absolutely not. The expectation at this level is that you're doing lots of things, and the really well-crafted ones use the funding that they're given to then almost weave together threads of work through their other funding, and I think that's really what we want to see. We want to see all of you being in this.
Great. I'm going to pop one over to Jane, if that's okay. Someone has asked if we could say a little bit more about the career stage that these awards are aimed at.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello, everyone. I think these are aimed, I always feel, at that, professor, postdoctorate professor, almost there, kind of, as we've already narrated it, that they just need that bringing things together. And it might be that it's a specialist area that they want to bring together, but it's also about themselves bringing that career together. And those are the ones that we really, we read them all really thoroughly, but those are the narrations that we really focus in on, because it is about, as Kerry and Janelle have said, about that extra, what is going to take you to the next level. So I think that's what we're looking for. I don't think we don't look, it's not about title as such. I think that's probably partly the question. It's about that journey they're going to make, that, the RP, what they're going to do with it and how it's going to change their career.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Holly?
Yes, thank you, Jane. I have one for Martin. Someone has asked, can applicants be primarily an academic but with work on health or social care?
Yes, certainly. I mean, we're again, as Kerry said in her presentation, the call does, ask if people are working in the health or social care or public health areas as a professional, if you like. But this is primarily, of course, an academic award. We're very keen. What we want from this is for people to develop their careers and make contributions to health, social care, public health, and that could be primarily, we think, through research, but through other ways as well, and understand what is needed in those different sectors. So people who bring that professional experience would be seen as strong candidates, but people without it would also be strong candidates, just to emphasize that. So.
Thank you, Martin. So the next one, I'm going to pitch it to the four of you, and you can all clamber to answer. So, to what extent did the panel take into account, 1, the general financial climate in UK HEIs, and 2, the specific financial position of institutions in determining what is sufficiently strong host support?
Well, I start with that one. So I think that the recycling of salary is non-negotiable. So there shouldn't be any way in which an institution kind of saves money by you being awarded this. I think that's a fair comment. Over and above that, we have funded in the past some very different organisations of different sizes and different financial strengths. And what has been made clear in the host institution support section is that this is still strategically really important, and they've done what they can. So I think that is, and we know who are the rich and affluent universities. So we will then look at that in terms of whether we think that's credible. It probably is fair to say that there are some brilliant applicants who come in at shortlisting with maybe a little bit substandard work package support from their institution, and if we sometimes will say, right, we'll shortlist them, but we will feed back to their institution that they need to have a better package by the time they get to interview.
Oh, go on, Janelle. You go first. You go first, Janelle.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Yeah, so it's support isn't just about the finance either. It's I mean, of course it needs to be reasonable adjustments above just recycling the individual salary, but it's really important that that support letter is also very individualized, and we can see through very easily if it's just a recycled letter of support or a generic support. It really needs to be about the individual. So even if it is not one of the rich universities, I don't know if there's that many left anymore, but anyway, some do have more money than others. Even that's okay, because it's about how you tell the story about the support that's required from the NIHR and how you're going to use that to add to the support from the institution. But that support letter from a strategic perspective really, really does mean a lot, maybe even more than what the bottom line is on the finances. But as Kerry said, if we sometimes see that someone's being a bit shortchanged, then NIHR will have those conversations with the institution as well. But you cannot absolutely rely on that, because that's exceptional circumstances. But institutional support is much more than just the money, and we can see through if it's just lip service with the support letter.
And that was going to be my point. So thanks, Janelle, because I think the host institution statements are really crucial, that they flow and they're individual and they don't look like they just cut and paste from the website. All those things we can see ourselves, but it's about that individuality of what the institution is going to do for this person and their team. And there's lots of creative things universities can do that don't necessarily cost so much in real money. For example, offering mentoring within the university, or mentoring with a dean or something like that. Being creative. And when we read that, we absolutely know that institution is behind this individual. That's what we're looking for.
Great, thank you all. I'm going to pop another one over to Martin. It is kind of feeding into that career stage question again, but they do raise an interesting point, which can be challenging for some applicants. And that is that there is a challenge between demonstrating excellence, leadership, and track record, and balancing this between being seen as already established. Could you give some advice on this and the career stage and level of independence you see at the panel?
Thank you. Nice, easy question. That's good.
Sorry, Martin.
No, I think it go back. I think it was Kerry who said about the value added, or maybe other colleagues. But it is about, what would this award do? Also, Kerry said this is the top award that NIHR offers in terms of capacity building. And so, what the panel is looking for, what NIHR is looking for, is what will this do to change the applicant's career, and what would that mean in terms of them becoming already more of, or becoming a leader in research in their field, as well as an advocate, a leader within NIHR more generally. So it's looking for that. What difference will this make? This is a substantial amount of money and a substantial investment, and there are only a small number of awards each year. So what big difference would this make? And when we look at applicants, when I think back, I've been on the panel for 4 years, I think now, you get some absolutely amazing applications coming through where you can see the transformation there. You can sometimes see others where it's not quite so transformative, and maybe they don't get the award, but they get really good feedback to say this is what we would expect to see. So it is about something making a difference is what we're looking for.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, Holly, as well, because I just want to say, so I recognise that in some of the questions you're kind of looking for us to give you a set threshold. That's what it feels like. And I know when I've put in bids, I'm like, well, just tell us exactly what you want. One of the reasons why we're sounding a bit vague on that is because we recognise that that threshold is likely to be different for different professions and different backgrounds, because you've had different levels of opportunity. So that is part of our discussion. So that's why we're not going, you should have done exactly X, because we know that would unfairly bias against some of our particularly our different professional backgrounds.
Thanks, Kerry and Martin. So I have one which relates to combining clinical work with research work. So the question is, could you talk more about the clinical expectation? I think 1 day per week is still allowed, but is this seen more favourably? And if you're non-clinical, what types of activities would you expect to see with the NHS institution? So just from a programme point of view, it is 100% full-time equivalent award. We would expect you to spend a minimum of 80% on your research and then 20% clinical, so you're getting that translation over. In terms of the non-clinical activities, if you're non-clinical, what activities would you expect to see? Would anyone like to speak to that?
I could pick up on some examples, so particularly from a stats perspective. So some of the sorts of things that are done are some consultancy or some engagement with local research community development within the NHS or social care organisations as a methodologist. It's quite a lot of engaging with maybe regional partnerships to help think about implementation of research. Those are good examples that we've seen come through. So it's kind of, instead of thinking about it being just non-clinical time, it's what's your investment back into those organisations, and how are your skills and your leadership and your development being used to the benefit of those organisations.
Thanks, Kerry. Does anyone else want to comment on that one? Okay. So we have a question about what we call the strategic priority that is given to non-medical and non-dentistry applicants. So they're looking for clarification on, does non-medical here mean non-clinical, i.e. the applicant is not active clinically, or does it mean anyone with a medical degree?
Holly,
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kerry, that sounds like you.
So I'm not sure that we've had that challenge asked to us. If I give you some reason as to why we've stated that, it's because we recognise that in previous cohorts we've given predominant to medical and dental academics. They've done better in our previous funding. So basically what we're saying is, if we've got a set of really good ones, we might prioritise some of the people who have been under supported before. So my automatic response on that is, that probably means we would include someone who's medically qualified, but I don't think it's I don't think it's set. I think it's to make the case for kind of where we think there's imbalance in the cohorts to date.
Thanks, Kerry. So the next one asks about the budget, which has been fixed at 2 million for a while now, which is correct, despite massive inflation, including clinical salaries in the meantime. So applicants say they are finding it becoming increasingly difficult to fit everything in the envelope. Are there any prospects to increase the maximum? Not for this round. It is something that we're constantly reviewing. And so if the budget did change for next year, it would obviously be included in the guidance notes. But for this year, the maximum is still remains at 2 million. The next one is a great question. Is there a way for NIHR to facilitate a buddy system with previous or existing RP holders? I'm representing a non-Russell Group, non-Golden Triangle University, and we have no previous successful applications to support applicants. So this is something that is very much on our radar and that we're looking into. So obviously for cohort 16 for this year, we've obviously missed the boat, but we will be looking into doing something to support applicants for cohort 17 that we will try and buddy you up with a previous RP if there's none within your institution. So watch this space, it's on our radar.
So can I just add to that, Holly? So I think, sorry, I was jumping in before you, Martin, and you put your hand up, that I also think a lot of, do look at, it's public who's been awarded them before. So whilst I think as the NHR, we're keen to drive forward more facilitation of that, don't be put off from maybe dropping a line to someone if you see they've been awarded someone before and doing an individual approach to talk to them.
Martin first, and then I'll come to you, Janelle.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I would just say that my experience is with the RPs, they are enormously proud of their awards and they are very keen to help other people to secure what they've got. So do reach out to them. They're all the all ones I know will be delighted to speak to you. So
Janelle, did you have your hand up, or are you?
Yeah, it was the same thing. I mean, at this level, we would expect you to be reaching out to leaders in the field and, leaders as potential mentors and previous awardees who are normally, as Martin said, very proud and happy to help. In fact, we expect that.
Thank you all. So the next one is it important to have grant income to get this award? Can an NIHR fellowship funding be considered? Which, Kerry, you kind of already spoke to this, that yes, we would expect you to have some other funding. It doesn't have to be from us, it can be from other funders.
Yeah, so I think we would expect a track record in winning and delivering. So it's not just the amount of money, it's and delivering research. I think it's worth remembering, as Martin pointed out, that this isn't fundamentally an academic post. So we're aware that what we're talking about and what you're talking about within your universities is that this should be someone who could be professorial level, even if you're not quite yet. So there's a need to meet an academic threshold. So again, most universities, that's not set at a fixed number of pounds. It's about the discipline and the variety and opportunities. But we would not generally be looking at someone who's got no research income.
Thank you, Kerry. Someone has asked, and other people have liked it, about sabbaticals and have said, can we say anything more about sabbaticals? Would any of you like to comment on any requests you've seen come in and applications in the past, or any thoughts on what we would expect to see in there?
I suppose my question, which is a hard one to do because I don't know, so is maybe I'm over-interpreting it. So if by sabbatical what we mean is maybe visits to other places, going and staying in other places for a few months. I mean, to a certain degree, the whole award is an opportunity to focus on you and your research and your development. So you could say in standard university terms, it's a bit of a sabbatical itself because you're freed up from administration and teaching and those sorts of other commitments. But in terms of visits to other institutions, absolutely welcomed. Various people do them and might put in, say, 3 months to go somewhere that's the global place that is the expert on whatever. it needs to be well justified. It needs to show what you will gain from it and what you will take to it. But I think the flip side back is it doesn't have to happen. So, because I think there's also some people kind of go, well, if I haven't put one in because I can't travel because I've got family or things like that. The key is that it works in your development plan.
Thank you, Kerry. So someone has asked, they're about to submit applications to HTA and HSDR. Can they use these in the research plan, or would they need fresh or a new project, or can they include work that's being submitted elsewhere?
We regularly see things where people are saying this is already submitted, this is already submitted. I suppose the key point is to be aware of the fact that that may be funded or not funded. So what you need to tell us in terms of maybe the risk management section of your submission is to be able to say, this is the plan, this is what it will look like if this is funded, this is what it'll look like if it's not funded.
Thank you, Kerry. One for you, Martin. I would like to know the appetite for social scientists at the qualitative end rather than trialist, biomed and medics.
We love them. I mean, that's but I mean, seriously, we are very keen. I mean, the committee is very aware that, you know, historically many of these awards went to people from clinical backgrounds, quite narrow clinical backgrounds. We are very committed to broadening the spectrum in terms of the type of awardees that get supported. So somebody bringing in good social science skills would absolutely be considered alongside everybody else. There's no disadvantage at all. So as a social scientist myself, I would love to see them, as I said before, but you know, the whole panel is committed to that breadth of skills that people bring to a professorship.
Great, thank you. Let me just refresh my thing to make sure I'm answering the ones that have had the most. We've had a couple of questions about the Global Health Research Professorships, which has been paused. We don't have any further news on whether that is likely to open and when. But if you keep an eye on our global health pages on the website, they will update it as soon as they have any word on whether or not the Global Health Research Profs will be running this year. Just have a little look down. Someone has said, how can we cover impact leadership in the research proposal plus PPIE and inclusion in just 5,000 words? What would you like us to be more specific about? What is the panel looking for? I'm leaving that open. Does anyone want to take that one?
So I guess as a starting point, I would say that it's not this many thousand words for this many thousand words for this many thousand words for this, because what we want to see is it threaded through everything, that we can feel that you've considered inclusion and engagement as you discuss all of the elements of your research program. So that would be my starting point on that. I don't know, Martin, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, it's similar to that. I think it's demonstrating awareness of what this means. It's not just cutting and pasting from somewhere else. It's understanding what this means. If I think about, you know, strong candidates we've seen recently, I mean, some of them, it depends how much time you've got and depends on the topic, but if you can demonstrate how you have, you know, threaded public involvement and equality, diversity, inclusion commitments through your previous work, and in preparing your application, that's going to help the committee understand, you know, how you approach those areas. So it's not just, oh, I must tick this box and have this in the proposal. It's demonstrating a real commitment and a real understanding of what this means and a real commitment to pursuing those objectives.
Great, thank you both. We have one about eligibility in the nominations, which are 2 men from ethnic minorities allowed to apply from the same institution to the domestic scheme? So the answer to that is no. If it's 2 nominations, one has to be female. Let me have a quick look. Another quick one, do you need to have had prior NIHR funding or have had consistent funding from other bodies? Or is having had consistent funding from other bodies good enough?
So I'll pick that one. So it can be from other bodies, noting this point also about the fact that we go slightly earlier in the translational pathway. So it is not uncommon for people to come in with MRC. We haven't seen ESRC yet, but I hope we might with an increase in social care related ones, but also Cancer Research UK, British Heart Fund, kind of the other big funders.
Thank you, Kerry. So this one relates to mentorship. It says, the observation read, the Russell Group aligns with my query. So one of the elements ranked is place. Do I need to identify a mentor in my employing organisation? Yes, is the answer to that first bit. But I'd like the panel to answer the second bit. If I do, that introduces an equity, as my organisation, unlike the Russell Group, does not have any highly regarded senior researchers. So without having an RP and having the MEDIC network, it is much harder to secure collaborations for the RP application. And that's why they feel that a lot of these awards are dominated by medical professionals. So would you like to speak to how you would advise seeking out mentors, suitable mentors, to support your application in that situation?
So if I start and then others can chip in, because I can't see hands going up. So one thing I would say is that in general, we like seeing a mentorship team that is broader than just your organisation. So whilst there is a requirement, you've got one in your organisation, actually we're more likely to say, well, it's just your organisation. That's regardless of who the organisation is. So even if it's a Russell Group University or a Golden Triangle University, generally we quite like to see that you're getting a breadth of mentoring from different areas rather than just from your own institution. But really, then it's about you going out and approaching people and finding them in the same way as we talked about for talking to previous RPs. Previous RPs can be quite good mentors and are often very enthused. We're seeing more and more coming through of people who we gave them to a few years ago. But look at the people in your field and approach them.
Janelle first and then Jane.
Yeah, so if you are putting an application in and you're not at a Russell Group university or a research intensive university, mentors can come in many different shapes and sizes, and they don't actually have to be a gold standard researcher in your field. It could be a mentor from your university who brings other unique qualities to your development and the program of research that you're proposing. They don't necessarily have to be a top research professor. So have a think about what you need as an individual for your development. Who's the best person to give you that, and where do you have to go to get all the different other pieces of the jigsaw for your mentorship for research and personal development?
Jane, and then back to Kerry.
Yeah, so definitely all those points about reaching out and beyond your immediate, obvious network, think wider. But in terms of nurses, midwives, and allied health professionals, as well as being a reviewer, I'm the chair of the Clinical Academic Roles Implementation Network in the Council of Deans of Health, and that has 150 member organisations signed up, and many senior professors and mentors are in that group. So if you contact the Council of Deans of Health, we have been facilitative in terms of putting mentors together if you can't find someone, because sometimes that's it's quite a difficult thing to find someone. So the Council of Deans of Health have offered that. So I'll just put that on the table so that you've heard that. The person to contact is Emma Schoen Bell at the Council of Deans of Health, and we have a mentoring list. So hopefully that's useful.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Jane. Back to you, Kerry.
So I wanted to mention that not all of your mentors have to be in academia otherwise. So I think it's just because I think we've been focusing on kind of other leading professors being mentors. And I noticed there was a few questions about industry as well. We've seen some really good mentoring teams where maybe someone who's a leading person in industry or has moved between sectors has also been a really good mentor and well justified in someone's development package.
Thanks, Kerry. So this kind of alludes to, again, that career stage that people are at, and Kerry has touched on this a little bit, but someone has said it would be helpful if NIHR could publish some metrics on successful candidates and their career backgrounds and what stage they were at across different professions, accepting the different thresholds. For example, of those funded over the last 5 years, how many were already a prof when they applied? Would any of you like to speak to that?
I mean, one thing I would say, of the people we interview, so people get through to that stage, probably 75% are already professors. It's about that sort of proportion. I think when we interview them, I don't think we see a difference in the quality of the candidate, the title doesn't make a difference in terms of what we see at that stage. It certainly doesn't make a difference in terms of the decision. But I'm not sure what the statistics say, but that's the impression I gain.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin. So a question on the recycling of staff costs. So what are the expectations for the recycling of staff costs that the fellow already had funded on existing grants? Could this funding instead be claimed for other academics acting in the same research group to free up capacity, or does it have to be recycled into a new post, which is a direct cost to the HEI?
So I don't think we're as specific as that.
Yeah, no.
So yeah.
I think so long as everything is justified, and this kind of relates into that host support statement, so long as that is specific to you and how it's going to help your professorship, then it will be considered. Yeah.
But we will see through if it's kind of, recycled but not recycled. We will see through that. So you need to be really, really clear with what's the money's being used for and the justification. Yeah.
Okay, this is maybe one for either Janelle or Jane. Does the requirement for significant research publication experience include or exclude senior leaders in the AHP professions who have limited publication history but possess substantial field expertise? The primary goal of this application is to address minimal research publication rates within the AHP professions.
It's okay, Jane. So you can certainly follow up. You've been on the committee a bit longer than me, but again, it's it is a research professorship, so we would expect a reasonable track record of outputs, including publications. But of course, we realise that if you're publishing in your specialist journals, such as nursing journals, etc., then we don't look at things like impact factors. We don't look at H indexes because we realise that can quite often be dependent on the discipline or even the specialism that you're working in. But we would, we want to invest in the, future leaders in the NIHR and in the NHS or social services, etc. So we would still expect, a strong CV. But it's more about how this personal award is going to help you to elevate all of that. And of course, we don't count publications, but we want you to be able to tell us a good story about impact of your research or the future impact of your research. That doesn't mean you have to have a publication in the Lancet. Okay, so we don't compare apples and oranges. We've got a very mixed multidisciplinary panel who understand the differences across the different disciplines. So don't let that worry you.
Yeah, I was ditto to that, Janelle. Absolutely. We have a mixed panel, and that is a really strong development in the last 5 years, as the fact we're all here, and we are very supportive. And so we take that into account, as Janelle has said, but you would have been, we would expect you to have published, because that's part of the life of, a clinical academic researcher. One thing we also take into account is where you're sitting on that publication, because often we found that nurses, midwives, and allied health professionals in particular may be second author, but actually, when you look back to the project, they took quite a substantive lead. So we look at the narrative, as Janelle has said, and we take that all into account very conscientiously, I think. So thank you, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. We really do look at the applications holistically. And it's just, it's not just about, performing well in one area, and and we will look at people's career trajectories, but that's up to you to tell us that story. As Jane said, you might have a lot of publications as maybe second or third author, but actually it's your narrative that will help us to understand why that might be the case.
Great, thank you, Janelle and Jane. And that brings us to the end of our time. We're just after 11. That went quickly. We still have a lot of questions we didn't get through. So if you do have a burning question that you would like an answer to, please email us at personal.awards@nihr.ac.uk. And there's a team of us here who will do our very best to help you. And if we don't know the answer, we will reach out to the panel and lean on them for their expertise. So thank you very much, Kerry, Martin, Janelle and Jane for joining us today. We really appreciate your wisdom and all of your help that you gave our potential applicants. And we look forward to seeing all the applications come through. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.